Hi there, folks. I'm Keegan Van Hook, and this is Us As We Are. In this video, we're in Medford's Vogel Plaza, where organizers with ORD2 Indivisible and Veterans for Peace gathered in solidarity with Ukraine as it faces invasion by Russian forces.
Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
Oh, that's a missile! That's a missile!
Excuse me, is it alright if I ask you what your sign means?
Yeah, it's right there. Be
a hero.
Be a hero, stop Putin. Kind of a euphemism for kill the son of a bitch. You know.
They can't put that on.
Well, okay, kill the SOB.
That helps, thank you.
Okay. The hope is that my sign might be seen by somebody and think, oh, I can be a hero. I'll kill the son of a bitch. You know, over there they've got, I've seen signs that says, stop Putin, you know, and same idea, you know. How are you going to stop him? Well, you're going to kill him, you know.
I am from South America, Bolivia. Have been in this country for 50 years. I live in California for 40 years, 10 years here. So I am here, united to keep Ukraine and the world safe.
Okay, I'm Terrie Martin. I'm one of the originators of ORD2 Indivisible in Jackson County. Indivisible is a movement that started in 2017 after the election of Trump. It was based on the belief that if we keep our members of Congress in the know of how we feel, then we can better shape what happens in Washington, D.C. It's a nonpartisan group. It exploded. Our first meeting had about 200 people at it. The second meeting had about 600 people. And we still have about 2,000 to 3,000 followers at this time.
Okay. And so you guys organized this event here today, correct?
Yes.
All right. Why don't you tell me just in summary what this is all about?
When Russia invaded Ukraine, it became very important for everyone to take a stand. And it's really hard to do when you're so far from Washington, D.C. and so far from Ukraine and so far from where all the decision makers are. But I think it's super important that people come together on a street corner like this and find that there are other people in our community that care and that want to make a stand strong and say that this is wrong and that we'll do everything we can to make it right.
I was in Ukraine for 2 weeks in 1997, and so what I'm wearing is something that is called a Ukrainian rushniki, and these are made by the women in Ukraine, and they're passed down from mothers to daughters, grandmothers, etc. And so when a girl child is born, they are wrapped in this, and then when they have their first menstruation, they're given this, and then it follows them through their life. And then if you were a Ukrainian man and I was a Ukrainian woman, they would put this down at our feet, and the first steps that we took would be onto this rushniki. And all of the patterns are symbolic. These patterns right here represent the bodies of the Ukrainian men and women. Other symbols are here as well that represent life. So this is I bought this one from an old woman in the underground subway where people are now staying, to escape the bombing. I can still see her face. She had packages, bags of these, and I bought that there. And then one of the women I met in Cherkasy was a silk artist. And so she made this, which is her interpretation of the Ukrainian flag. Wow. So I don't know where she is right now, but I pulled this out and thought I would bring this today to honor her and to honor all those women, that I know there. Two of my friends fled 3 nights ago and tried to get to the Polish border. Another woman I know, Lesa, she and her husband, she is the president of one of the largest nursing schools in Cherkasy, which is about 5 hours south of Kyiv, and they started bombing 2 nights ago. So they've been living in their car in one of the underground garages of the last 2 nights with their oldest daughter. So I'm very glad to be able to join others here today to be able to stand up for Ukraine and for peace. You know, there's so many of the Russian people that just do not want this to be happening. So thank you for covering this today. I really appreciate it. This is Allen. He's one of the Veterans for Peace organizers. Yeah.
Hi, Allen.
Hi.
Here, go ahead and just introduce yourself for me to begin.
Sure, I'm Allen Hallmark, and I'm a spokesman for Veterans for Peace. And so we're co-sponsors of today's rally in support of the people of Ukraine who have been invaded by Russia in an unprovoked attack. And Vladimir Putin carries all the blame for this. It's absolutely unconscionable that he would invade a country, a democratic country that has done nothing to Russia to provoke an attack. And so we stand solidly with the people of Ukraine and want the people of Medford to know that we support and that people should be in support of Ukraine, because it could happen next to Poland or Czech Republic or Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania. And those are countries of NATO. And if there is an attack on a NATO country, the U.S. is obligated by treaty to go to the defense of that country, which could put us in a war with Russia. We do not want that. We want to avoid that at all costs.
I, for one, am glad that NATO was in place to stand up for the bully Putin. On a personal note, I'd just like to say that in 1967, I was sent to Vietnam by my country to fight an unjust war. We were the invaders then, just as Russia is the invader in this war. I saw there what war looks like, how it kills, how it maims, and dehumanizes everyone in its path. After my year in Vietnam, I returned home a committed anti-war person. While I was still in the Army, I protested the Vietnam War at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, with GIs United Against the War, Vietnam. And I've been an activist for peace on and off ever since.
Can you tell me more about Veterans for Peace and what it sort of means here locally in the Rogue Valley?
Yeah, well, Veterans for Peace is a national, even an international organization. There are actually chapters in England and I think Okinawa and Japan and various places, but mostly here in the United States. And it's been a peace organization for veterans and associates. We have some members who are not veterans but who believe in peace and want to help our chapter out. But there are chapters all over the country who work to explain to people the costs of war. We're veterans. We've been to war, many of us. I've been to Vietnam, and I fought in Vietnam in 1967 and 68. And I learned over there that I was the invader. I was in the position that the Russian troops are in today, invading a sovereign country. And you know, we went there with the invitation of the dictator of South Vietnam, but he was soon deposed. So it was a horrible situation. I learned that war is hell. War is not something that solves any problems. It only makes more problems. And that's the case here in this situation.
This war is very, very frightening. Because if Putin decides to attack a NATO nation, the U.S. and 29 other NATO nations would be obligated by treaty to defend that country against Russia. That could risk the unleashing of nuclear weapons, which could mean the end of civilization as we know it. Diplomacy is the only way to end this conflict and to resolve the thing in a way that won't result in mutual destruction. Let us hope and pray that it doesn't come to that. It would be a fatal mistake to send U.S. troops to fight it in Ukraine with so much at stake. But we do need the sanctions, and we're so glad that so many nations are cooperating in that regard. So I'd like to introduce my friend Dasja. Are you here, Dasja? Yes. All right. Dasja is a person who knows a lot about Russian invasions. Born and raised in Prague, then the capital of Czechoslovakia, she and her family fled to the Netherlands seeking safe haven when the Russians invaded their homeland in 1968. For the past few years, she's lived in the Rogue Valley. She's a great photographer. She's a great flower arranger. And she was one of the stalwarts with ORD2 Indivisible as they delivered snacks and flowers to our health workers in hospitals in the Rogue Valley. So Dasja, tell us what you think about all this.
Go girl! I'm basically, can you hear me?
You have to keep it in.
Press the button. Keep it in. Can you hear me now? Yes. Thank you. I'm basically speechless. In what is it? It's been 5 days now. Maybe preceded by another 2 weeks of, frightening, scary things that we all thought that would not happen. I actually thought it would happen because I have seen it happen before. Well, my name is Dasja Dolan, and I'm an East European refugee, a long time ago, political refugee. I was in Czechoslovakia when the Russians invaded in 1968, and I saw the tanks roll into the streets of my city, and I have to say what is happening now really triggers me. It's almost like a PTSD. There were airplanes flying above East Medford today, and I literally started trembling. I do not want to compare the situation in Czechoslovakia to Ukraine. It was bloody. People just basically gave up. We had 150 people died. One guy burned himself, Jan Palach, who became a hero. And the next 20 years were really hellish for people. I was able to live with my parents, and we were offered political asylum in the Netherlands, where I went to school and met my late husband and moved to United States. United States was a beacon of hope for us. We moved here in 1981. It was something that we dreamt about for years and years. Now I have a feeling what is really happening in our country. We are at the risk of losing our democracy, and I don't want to be dramatic. When I see people in the streets and everything is still peaceful, it seems like we are okay. We had a wonderful speech by Joe Biden yesterday. The Republicans and Democrats all stood up and are supporting Ukraine, and I'm really happy about it. Now what's happening in Ukraine, it's really a catastrophe. And we are just seeing the beginnings of it. And I'm just, as a person, I'm not speaking as somebody who studied history, and as a person who experienced losing the country, not knowing what's going to happen. Are you going to be shot or not? I just feel so much for these people who don't know if they will ever come back. The women and children are separated from, their men, their husbands, their fathers, and they don't know if they will ever see them again. I saw the Russian tanks rolling into the streets of cobblestone Prague in 1968, August 21st. I remember at 2 o'clock in the morning on 21st, my uncle called. The telephone was in the hallway and my parents were asleep, and he said, Dasja, go wake up your parents. Go wake up your parents. The Russians have invaded. And we lived in a corner apartment and had lots of windows, and so we watched out of the windows, and first we heard the noise, kind of rumbling noise, and then it was dark, but we saw the silhouettes of the tanks, and my mom, who was the Holocaust survivor, she started screaming at me, go into the kitchen and kneel down and don't come out. Basically the next couple of days were so chaotic. We went into the streets and tried to talk. We spoke Russian. I had Russian at school for 9 years. I forgot. Я забыла. So we tried to tell them, you're not coming to our rescue. We are not in danger of Western powers invading us. That's what they, used as an excuse. Just like Putin is using as an excuse that, Western power, the story. It's just a repeat of the history. I don't want to go into details. It was just a horrible time. You know, my parents were in the 50s. You know, they heroically left and started their life again, and did quite well. And you know, we learned the language. I went to school. We were okay. What I want to say, this Ukrainian invasion is on a totally different scale. What really is at stake is democracy in the world. So this is not just Ukrainian war. And I just want to really stress to everybody, because I have witnessed great fatigue amongst resistance. You know, we all thought, well, we fought 4 years to, you know, have Joe Biden. Joe Biden, we didn't know who would become a president, but we really fought for a different direction and outcome. And we basically got it. Not as strong as I wish we did. I'm really thankful that Joe Biden is our president and not our previous president, because the world would be in a terrible place. And you know, when I hear Mr. Pence complaining about how weak Joe Biden is, and you know, I just want to tell him, look what Trump did during the 4 years. He weakened the NATO. You know, he had bad names for the Western countries. He admired Putin. He just said, what, a couple of days ago, that Putin did a brilliant thing and what a smart guy he is. Well, I think that's traitorous to say something like that. It can be used in Russia, you know, in Russian media, to tell people that, you know, we are supporting them. But anyway, you guys know what it is. It's just my experience, not with Russian people, because Russian people are just like any other people, you know. It's the power above them that is just so horrific now, that they are willing to basically do away with the world because they can. I think the situation in Russia was so bad, and who knows what's going on with Putin. He just wanted an excuse to, you know, draw away from troubles in Russia. So now who knows what the outcome is gonna be. But I just want to tell everybody here, please don't get discouraged. You know, keep fighting for democracy. This is our last chance. You know, the midterms are coming soon, but 24 is around the corner, and I don't want to hear, you know, I don't want to do the postcards, I don't want to do the letters, I'm tired. You cannot be tired. This is your democracy, this is your life on the line. Or you'll end up like Ukrainians, you know, maybe not in 5 years, but down the road. So, you know, I don't want to shame you to do anything that you don't want to do. I totally understand. I'm exhausted too. But what's happening now is just giving me a new resolve.
So when the invasion started, can you sort of tell me about what your reaction was, sort of what your feelings were when you saw that happening on television?
I was very sad, because I know that things like that could escalate. And so it's just very sad because of a person that we don't know what his mental status is. So it's a crazy man.
When the invasion started, sort of explain how you felt or what your reaction was.
Yeah, pretty upset actually. You know, I feel like my perspective is that there haven't been a lot of conflicts that were kind of justified, and this is definitely something that I feel that people are defending their homeland and their freedom, and they need help, you know. So any way we can help this, I have other ways actually trying to get over there. So I just think it's important right now.
Anything you want to add to that?
I'm just here for the support. It's sad to see what's going on right now, and it definitely makes me angry that this is happening, especially to innocent people, and they don't want to be through it. So it's nice to be out here to have that support in that way.
Putin is not going to make his situation better for Russians. In fact, Russians are protesting this war mightily. In fact, in Russia, if you stood out here and did what we're doing here today, you could get very likely would be carried away to jail. You very likely could be sentenced to several years in prison for doing this. So we are thankful that in this country we are free to come out and protest and to speak our minds and to tell our citizens and our government how we feel about things. And that's what we're doing here today. And we're thankful that you guys came out to show people what's going on and how we feel about Ukraine. We feel very, very strong about the Ukrainian people and how they are standing up to the Russian bear. And so we're there for them.
I am here because I have been very involved with, activism, political activism, since 5 years ago when Trump became a president. And I just hope that we never end up with an autocrat. People here cannot imagine what it's like to have a war on your soil. I'm here with my people, to get support, because I feel really emotionally so distraught. And it's wonderful to see that there are so many people who really care. And I'm encouraging everybody, do not lose hope, do not give up. People are getting tired of protesting, and we all have to continue because we still have that freedom to gather. In Russia, they don't have that freedom anymore. In Czechoslovakia, we didn't have that freedom anymore. Russians wanted to control us because we were getting too close to the Western powers, just like Ukraine. So I want, Americans to realize this is not on foreign soil. This is now all of us. This is our war. This is not just Ukrainian war.
When you saw the invasion begin, it was broadcast heavily on social media and on television. Sort of, how did you feel? What was your general reaction? I'm sorry.
Well, I've lived in Germany a couple of times. I've been back through East Germany before it was opened up to the West. And I had gone to, for example, in Budapest, Hungary, and spent some time there when I was younger. And so I had a real understanding what it feels like for these people who live in these countries who are afraid to speak. I would try to have conversations with them, and they would whisper or they would not talk to me at all because they felt like everyone was listening. And they were their whole lives were so narrow and so frightening that to see these people suddenly find themselves under the thumb of Russia is terrifying. And then as a mother, I have 2 kids, and at this point I can't imagine grabbing your children and running out of your house and trying to explain why you're doing this. Why are you leaving the safety of your home? Why are you leaving behind everything you know and your family, and where are you going you don't know? And this is a human tragedy. It's huge, and it's important that all of us play a part in this.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. All right, I'm Terrie Martin. I'm one of the originators with the ORD2 Indivisible. Yay! And I wanted to make sure that I thank all of you for coming, because this is a courageous act that you're doing. Just standing here in the corner with these flowers and these signs and taking a stand today in this rain, this is important. It's important that they see that we care about them. And I love the media coverage here. It's awesome that everybody's going to see that we stand with the people so far away from us there. One of the things we do with Indivisible, how Indivisible is formed, is that we keep our members of Congress accountable. All right, that's what we've been doing for, I guess, 5 years. I've lost track. I'm kind of like Dasja. I'm a midnight activist. I work all day, and then sometimes I go home and I do all my activism between 10 and 2. And so at this point, it's an exhausting job, like Dasja says, but it's what we have to do because we're not in D.C., right? We can't make those decisions, but we have to push the people that are back there to do what we want them to do. So it's really important. If you want to get more involved with Indivisible, please come find me, come find us on any of the social media sites. But as part of that, I wanted to make sure that I let you know where your members of Congress stand on this issue. Okay? Usually we ask the senators' offices to send us a statement, and that usually takes a couple of weeks, and we didn't really have a couple of weeks. We've had 5 days this time. So they've authorized us to use the statements they've made on social media. And here's Jeff Merkley's statement. I join in unity with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle and with the administration in urging Russia to end this illegal incursion. And I stand ready to exact the most punishing economic costs on Moscow and its leadership that have ever been brought to bear in concert with our allies. At the same time, we must do all we can to support the Ukrainian people, particularly those who are forced to flee their homes. Innocent civilians should not be trapped in the crosshairs, and Russia will continue to pay for its aggressions. That is your Senator Jeff Merkley. Ron Wyden has some similar words, but he's also coming at this a little differently. He is chairman of the Finance Committee, the Senate Finance Committee, so he is all about finding ways to hold Russia accountable in this process. He says, I urge my colleagues to set partisanship aside and quickly revoke Russia's most favored nation status to send a clear message to Putin that the invasion of Ukraine will have devastating consequences for his regime. As chair of the Senate Finance Committee, he has proposed a long list of new ways that we can make Putin pay for his actions, including taking away their reduced tariffs by taking away their most favored nation status. He's authorized an investigation by the IRS Criminal Investigations Unit of illicit Russian assets and loopholes used by Russian oligarchs to hide those assets and not pay U.S. taxes on them. Wouldn't it be great? And he's authorized a change in the rules by the Securities and Exchange Commission that will require disclosures of foreign owners of private investment funds, and a separate investigation of loopholes by the Treasury Department. So that's what your Senator Wyden is doing for us, okay? So when you get a chance, call their offices and say thank you very much for what you're doing. We really appreciate what you're doing in D.C. Now our other guy is Cliff Benz. And we've been dogging him for a statement for the last 5 days. And he was radio silence up until 24 hours ago. We would like to say that we take some credit for getting that statement 24 hours ago. We do that through ORD 2 Indivisible, as well as our alter ego, which is Tell the Truth Cliff. If you like that, it's a little more pointed, a little more, it's got a little more attitude. Edgy. It's a little edgier. Yeah, so find Tell the Truth Cliff on both Twitter and Facebook and follow us and share it. Cliff Benz came out with a statement yesterday that sounded really good in the beginning. He called Putin a dictator and a madman with his finger on the trigger, and he said all those things we wanted him to say, and then he went off the rails. Okay, totally went off the rails. He said we shouldn't buy any Russian oil, and because of that, we need more drilling and more pipelines and more drilling in public lands. Okay, so that's what we need as an answer to this. All right. So we went off into that direction, and then after that, he said that if it wasn't for Biden's, withdrawal from Afghanistan and the world seeing us as weak, this wouldn't have happened. All right? So, you know what to do, right? We've had 5 years of training here. Get on the phone, get on the emails, get on Twitter, get on social media, let him know how you feel, because if he doesn't hear from us, he's thinking that everybody supports him. So it's super important that you do this, and in fact, we've made it a little easier for you today. We have a bunch of Post-it notes here, and if you want to write your little message to him about what his statement says, we will deliver it right down and put it on the windows of his office tonight. Okay? So stop by. We have pens, Post-it notes. We're going to do that for you. And in the meantime, keep working at this. I mean, if they don't hear us, they're not going to know what to do. So they need to hear that we are with them, and that we are watching, and that we're holding them accountable, and that we care. Most of all, that we care. And if this continues, we'll do this again. Yes. All right? Yes. Okay. Thank you all for coming.
And what do you think about the response of the United States, or even other countries, the world in general? Lots of sanctions have been made, and it's controversial. Some people want more to be done, while there are others who say that doing more might escalate the conflict. Where do you sort of stand on that?
I'm very happy that almost the entire world is together. Even Switzerland is together with sanctioning Russia. So for that, I'm very happy. It shows that democracy in the world is working.
Ooh, big wind. Goodness.
Yes. Thank you. I think we can go say bye-bye.
All right. I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Here. And how do you feel about how the United States government has sort of handled the situation so far? Because it's controversial. Do you think they're doing enough, or do you?
I think it would be controversial with any government. There are no perfect solutions. I really am thankful that Joe Biden is our president now. I feel that he is much more steady than the alternative would have been. I feel that Trump gave Putin way too much power. He weakened NATO. He just spoke a couple of days ago praising Putin, how brilliant his move is and what a smart man he is. This is inexcusable. He's giving ammunition to the media, to official media in Russia to use against us. And I think that's traitorous. So so far so good. I feel like with all this atrocity going on, I feel like, no, we should be going there. We should be helping, Ukrainians. But honestly, God, this could unleash a nuclear war. So it still might come to it. I'm not very optimistic, but I think so far, the intelligence that Joe Biden released was very, very good because Putin was going to do this anyway. Joe Biden didn't push him to it. I'm just sorry that Zelensky didn't listen and didn't prepare his people enough. Now it's a little too late they could have been in a little bit better shape. But I am proud of Zelensky, I'm proud of Ukrainian people, and I'm really quite happy how Joe Biden is dealing with it so far. So, and again, to say, you can blame him for all different kinds of things. Any government would have difficulties, and I just hope the Democrats and Republicans can come together and stop criticizing the way it's being dealt with and do it together, because this is our country, this is our democracy. This is not democratic or independent or Republican debate. This is all of us.
What about the world, like the United States and other countries, how we've sort of reacted? So far we've sanctioned Russia a whole lot, and some people say more could be done, some people want less to be done. Where do you guys sort of stand on that?
I feel like they are doing a good job with what they're doing, like preventing Russia to come into our airspace and all of that, and banning them. I mean, I feel like that's a good start for sure, but there can be a lot more that can be done as well. I guess we'll have to wait and see what's actually going to happen and how far this war is going to go. And hopefully not far. I think we're all hoping that for sure.
Yeah, nobody likes a war.
No.
I feel like there's only so much the countries really can do. Once people start getting involved country-wise, it gets really messy. But what I do like is the potential for individuals to band together like this, and now like Ukraine is allowing individuals to come help and fight, and I think that's a really cool opportunity for people willing to do that. The fact that we could stand together as individuals as opposed to country-related aspects, I just think that there's a potential moving forward to have more of a collective mindset for individuals to contribute. So that's what I think a lot of people should consider. Any way they can help that.
Anything I didn't ask about that either of you wanted to mention?
I don't know. It's nice to be able to spread the awareness. I know people are with social media and everything, but to actually know the extent of it. The only concerning part for me is the information that we get. Like, is it correct information? Like, what should we believe? Like, what's going on? And especially if they're pulling old videos and everything like that, then that can be concerning as well. But, yeah.
Not a lot. They definitely should be held accountable. Yeah. I think it will end sooner than later if we resist well enough. But I think it's really important for them to resist as much as possible right now and hold out as long as possible, and wait for the politicians to make their change. But until then, people are, they need help. They're dying. They're struggling to stay alive and protect themselves. So anybody that's willing to do that, I think, should really consider that.
All right, I want to thank you both for your time.
Yeah. Thank you.
And hopefully it doesn't rain on us.
I know, just a little bit.
How do you feel about the reaction of the United States? Are the sanctions we're doing enough? Do you want to see more? Do you want to see less? People are all over about this, so what's your take?
Personally, I think it's a chess game, really. I think it's got to be a chess game. I think all of us some people want them to blaze in with guns, and some people want them to just stand back and work for peace. But we are not in those decision-making capabilities. We're not the ones in the State Department. We're not the ones that have played this game with Russia this long. So I think that in some ways I've got to trust my leaders and the people that are the most well-versed in this to make the right decisions as we go along here. And if we don't like what they're doing, we let them know. That's what we do.
Okay. Well, was there anything that I didn't ask you about that you wanted to talk about?
No, I just think I'm really grateful for the people of this valley that step up in these moments. And when we put the call out from Indivisible, and they've come forward and taken a stand.
All right, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Cool. War, especially on the battlefields of the 21st century, is hard to predict. So we don't know what will happen or which side might win, if victory is even a relevant concept on a planet with such advanced weapons. Regardless of the specific consequences this war might bring, we're already seeing ripples of it here at home. 5,825 miles from Kyiv. I'm Keegan Van Hook, and this is Us as We Are.
This is a new dimension in sound. This is